This is the, as you can tell, this is one of the more looser, vibey sessions, educational workshops. And everybody that's going to be on the stage is a friend of mine, is somebody that I know. They're a boss. They're doing their thug thizzle. So I'm really excited to introduce these two ladies. This is Rachel. She's on my team at Gild Creative Group. She knows a lot about what it means to go viral, to produce and run campaigns. And then this is my girl, Macala Rose. She is an incredible, incredible talent. I met her through a mutual friend, and it's been nothing but data. So she's our data queen, and she's gonna also be the one telling us and sharing with us her experiences when content goes viral and what that means, and how do you kind of thread the needle between that and making sales, making content, that sort of thing. Is that okay, ladies, if we
Absolutely.
do that?
Let's do it.
Do you want to add anything to your bios before we begin?
No, let's do this.
Let's
and in
do
case
this.
anyone wants to know, this will be available on asdonline.com/blog about a week or so after the show. So we are going to provide all this, whether it's a presentation or the videos or all those things for you in addition, just in case. So don't feel like you've got to capture notes or you're going to miss something, because we're going to make sure we give you everything, because we want to see all your businesses thrive.
Absolutely. And so we're going to kick this off. I want to ask the audience a question first. Have any of you done an influencer marketing campaign before? Yes, we got one, couple folks in the house, a few people in the house. By show of hands, would you say, raise your hand again if you say, oh, my campaigns have been successful and met all my expectations? Awesome. How many of you can say also that you, when you spent the money that you did on those influencer campaigns, you were able to get the numbers, the sort of ROI on that campaign that you thought you would or could? Ish. And then last question, what did you do with the content that came out of that influencer campaign? Did you use it again? Did you use it again? Yes? Oh, ooh, always. A+ gold star, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Yes. So we're going to kick this off with just sort of starting with, because most of us maybe haven't done an influencer campaign. Rachel, on the agency side of things, tell us more about what it means to start an influencer campaign. What is the process involved in that?
Yeah, so I would say the first step is obviously understanding the goal. What are we trying to accomplish here? Are we trying?
Are you guys here? Can you
Can you hear me okay? Does it need to be a little louder?
You need to bring it closer to you.
Hello, hello, hello.
There you go.
That's a little better? Okay. You need to understand the goal. What are you trying to accomplish, and what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to drive sales? Are you trying to just generate awareness? Are you just trying to spread the word? Once you're aligned on that goal and what you're trying to achieve, that could obviously help in sparking the strategy. Because if you don't have a goal, if you don't have a strategy, you're not about to make a viral campaign. You're not about to make a successful campaign whatsoever. And so something that I've learned just throughout my experience has been working with the brand to really get to the nitty-gritty of what they're trying to achieve and why they're trying to achieve it, and helping to work together to be strategic in how we go about it, especially when utilizing the power of influencers. And you know, it can get a little dicey when you're working with influencers, because they obviously have their own brand, as Tiffany was talking about brands. The client has their brand and the influencer has their brand. They have their respective audiences, so there needs to be alignment there. And something that I've learned over time as well is, if the brand and the influencer are not aligned, you're not about to have a happy viewer or a happy customer, which means you're not about to drive engagement, and you're not about to go viral. You're not about to have an engaged person who wants to be able to purchase that product, to learn more about that product, or whatever the case might be. And so when you're thinking about the goal and when you're thinking about the strategy, the brand has to be super clear, again, on what they're going to achieve and how the influencer can play a role in that goal. And the influencer needs to be able to have a little bit of that creative freedom and opportunity to bring that goal and that strategy to life. You have to be able to build that trust between the brand and between the influencer in order to stay aligned and in order to achieve success, to generate happiness with the viewer. And so again, that goal, nail it down. It's even super, super helpful, again, to know why you have that goal. Why are you trying to generate sales outside of making money? You know, is there something that you heard from your consumers, from your audience that you feel like they need more of, they want to build more off of with you? Get to the nitty-gritty of that why. The better you're able to explain that, the better we're able to understand your goal, and the creator, the influencer, is better able to execute and create that content for you to really hit that goal. And again, the strategy, when it comes to the creative, when it comes to the approach, allow a little bit of that freedom. Trust in the influencer to bring to life that idea, that goal that you have in mind. And when it comes to thinking of the influencers, they were obviously chosen for a reason. There is a reason why you wanted to be able to leverage their reach and leverage their power to help you in reaching that goal. So make sure that you have that flexibility and again, that freedom that you give to them to execute on that strategy. And then of course, you know, you get that happy viewer. So I'll stop there.
When I tell you, that was the plea. That was a plea. It felt like, please have a strategy. Okay.
Please have a strategy, please.
I am so tickled. Okay, so what happens? We've gotten through the process. The strategies align, the influencers are aligned, and the campaign is happening. We're getting the results back. What should we be looking for, Macala?
So I'm going to give a little bit of preference before I give you that answer in terms of what to be looking for. So to take a few steps back, I personally have managed over $5 million in paid Google ads and Meta, so that's Instagram and Facebook. And over the last 5 years, I've seen this increase in cost per performance and a decrease on response. What's kind of happened in the last 12 to 18 months is that because of algorithm gaming, which is where people are trying to game algorithms within, Meta and Google, they tweak that. You might find a little performance, but they're going to course correct, ding you, and you got to work your way back up. So algorithms are very dynamic. Over the course of that time, you're going to see your pay for play get more and more expensive, and so what I've seen a shift back to is investment in owned property and content, reinvestment in narrative. Influencer marketing sits at the intersections of all of those things. So in terms of performance, like when you talk about strategy with influencer marketing, why are you doing it? But so is it to raise brand awareness? Is that top of funnel? Is it something that's more in the middle in order to improve sales? Like you can put a metric beyond views and engagement to it depending on what your goal is and where you're at in terms of a company. But that being said, what I've started to see is, well, how do I know that this is effective? How do I know that this is working for my brand? And from the brand perspective, there are several ways that you can, set metrics for your influencer campaigns. And on a more tactical level, but again, still high level, like the URLs that you're using within that campaign, there are these things called UTMs. These are a Google phenomenon, and it's like urchin tracking module, but it's a data and source reference that you can append to the links that your influencers are sharing within their content, so you can have a better idea of, well, did they drive sales? What happened when they came to my site? And that's the easiest way. We have, fancier softwares, but that's if you're bigger and there's all these other things, but just on more of a small business level, making sure that you've tagged your URLs properly, you can start to kind of see how they feed through beyond just, we got a hit from this link and it says it was Instagram. It's like, oh wait, that was that Instagram campaign for these 3 influencers that we worked with, and then when I look at my purchase data, it shows that was the source link for that. Or maybe you have a bunch of opt-ins to your newsletter or subscriptions to a channel that you're trying to grow. You can use, just custom tagging your links that they're sharing to start to gather better intel on their value, because there is a piece of influencer marketing that's very hard to qualify and quantify. So starting to look at how you are doing that in ways that do not prohibit their creativity or make it hard for them to deliver the narrative that's in their content for you is a really good baseline for a start. And in terms of measurement, like whether you're on a Shopify, you're on a Wix, whether you have something that's WordPress and WooCommerce, whatever you're built on, if you've got Google Analytics set up, in addition to whatever analytics your shopping cart has, I'm sorry, you need them both, you can actually see that, and it's as simple as, hey, here are the links I'd like you to use. Are you okay with this? And then just let them know that's a custom link, so that we know just a little bit more insight in addition to what they can provide. And if you are an influencer, know your numbers. I mean, there's follower count, there's certain engagement metrics that are provided within the platform that you are active on behalf of a brand, but as an influencer, they can do the same thing. It's like, hey, can I offer you a way to better track my work? Do you have links with UTMs attached that can show what I bring in terms of value, whether that's opt-in, purchase, or just more traffic, and just to kind of start to empower and educate yourself that way. That's the 101. We'll stay there.
I love that. Yes.
Okay.
I love that. And what I heard too was just the fact that like we have access to so much information.
Yep.
How are we using it, and how are we informing what we're going to do? Because the best part about doing, I think, a influencer program, and whether it worked or didn't work, whatever that measurement is for you, you know what to do next time. I think a lot of folks do a one and done. Like they're like, oh, that didn't work, and so that was wasted money, and I'm never doing it again. Or you can explore what happened in the process and get better and train your teams better, understand what to look for. Because sometimes it's not the talent. Sometimes it's you. Like, because what I always tease marketers with, just as a marketer, it's like the talent's job isn't to sell your product. The talent's job is to introduce your product or service to their friends, right? So it's like, that thing when you have a friend and they're meeting your new friends, and then they build their own relationship, but then let something happen, then they both come to you, it was your fault. It's not my fault. Like, that's y'all's business. Like, so it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing where the influencer will do their job, because they're getting paid or they're getting some type of value from the brand, and they'll do their job to post whatever they need to post, do the review, whatever the case may be. And if they're a savvy influencer, then they will do what Macala said, which is figuring out what is the best tool to really integrate and say, like, hey, this is what I did, this is what I can offer from a numbers perspective. But on the flip side, if you're a brand and you're saying, hey, I want to understand if this is successful, I'm going to, use a UTM link. I'm going to ask you send me screenshots from, Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is to say like, hey, this is what it is. Now, as the marketer, it's your job to capture the people that they introduced and bring them through your funnel. That's not the influencer's job. That's your job as a marketer. And the way you do that is by, especially when it comes to a link and somebody opting in or getting into the email list or whatever, that's when you can start to do the retargeting ads. You can use the content to do maybe some paid ads, but getting them into your orbit to continue that work. Now, part of this was about going viral, which is something that as a marketer, I get really tickled about, because it doesn't always just happen. It is something that a lot of money gets spent on. And if you're a brand that has maybe not a lot of money to spend, then you're going to want to use your budget efficiently. And sometimes placing those bets on that one influencer where all their stuff goes viral, and so I'm going to work with them and spend, $200,000 on them, and it goes like, nothing happened. Like, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. So although there are a lot of campaigns that we could speak to that like have gone viral, it has been with bigger brands, bigger dollars happening on the background with agencies. So I think what's probably more important to talk about here is how can folks who have retail shops actually say, look, going through their product launch, say, okay, how can I set this up for success. So if there are, let's say, if they're working with YouTube influencers, what would you say, Macala, that they should do for their reviews? I think you're going to see later John Santos. He's going to be here doing a panel with one of his teammates, and he's really great at using his personal brand to grow his channel and also sell products. But I'm curious, what do you think a John Santos or someone that is in the seat of selling products and working with YouTube influencers, what are they checking for?
So on the brand side and how to assess a YouTube influencer partnership. Okay, so from the brand side, so this is very timely because I've just spent the last 6 months and over 1,000 hours studying this. So I can give you both, the influencer side and the brand side. So from a brand perspective, when you're thinking of working with a YouTube influencer, whether there's someone with 2,000 subscribers or someone that's up to 200,000, first, you've got to ask, is my company, my services, my product, in this case, let's say it's product, relevant for this person? Watch their channel, kind of figure out where your relevancy lies, because in starting a conversation with them, don't just say, oh, you've got a lot of views, you got a lot of followers, oh, I want you to talk about this thing. So be intentional about the influencers you would want to approach in YouTube. And then actually, because in a sense, you're pitching them. It's like, hey, you know what? Like, Christo, I love your creativity. I love the God as a designer line. I am doing X, Y, Z. I would love to work with you in this sense. And would that be a possibility? And open that dialogue up. But know why you would want to have that influencer promote your product to their audience and come up with some creative ideas. This is where you're the marketing strategist. Don't just leave it to them, because that's going to get their attention a lot quicker is if you've got a clear ask than just being like, well, we want to work with you. How could we do that? Come up with something unique. And then from there, you can start negotiation and everything else. And in terms of like some of the softer metrics like views or number of subscribers, those are all important, but don't just think that someone that has a large following, let's say 200K, is necessarily going to be the best one for you. There are a lot of what I call there's a new type of influencer that's rising. I'm calling it the relational influencer. They usually have between 2,000 and 10,000 subscribers if it's YouTube, but the communities are so highly engaged. The comments, there's the back-end metrics called watch time. So as someone's watching one of their videos, do they watch 25%, 50%, 75%? The whole thing? And that's a question that you can ask them, that it's like, hey, how engaged is your audience? I've got this idea. I would love to work with you. Let's start a conversation. And once that dialogue starts, ask for some of those back-end YouTube metrics about engagement. So do people watch the videos halfway through? Is it longer? Is it less? Because there might be some details in there of how you could better work together. Because if it's a shorter attention span, well, don't be trying to make an hour-long video because it's just going to fall flat. So is it something that's a short versus a whole long narrative? And then even so that's where I would start there, is that relevancy. Ask them about some of the back-end metrics in terms of audience engagement. And you can see some of that on the front end, right? Like number of subscribers, number of comments, number of views over time. And you can kind of see what's sticky with their audience. But ask them about some of those back-end metrics, and they should be willing to share that with you. And if your idea doesn't resonate, then say, hey, what are your ideas? Because at least you've got the foundation. Now on the influencer side, I'm going to take this back to kind of 101. So first, for some of these, this is a larger channel, so I'm going from the smaller relational up a few levels. I built a dashboard for them that I can set up within Looker Studio, which is a Google product just like YouTube, and it will not only pull in all their YouTube data in terms of watch time, engagement, views, but I set up a new metric that connects the content to the commerce. So we can track through the links that are shared, like usually, because YouTube's a different beast, right? Where you have a longer URL that you can click through to subscribe to a newsletter, purchase a product, engage in an affiliate, and all it requires is for them to tag those links correctly, and then it will audit, because it's within the Google wheelhouse, analytics, YouTube, Looker. It can actually show where that engagement and where that ROI is coming from. So is it a sale? Is it a follow? Is it an opt-in? Was it all three? You get a little bit more dynamic when it comes into the world of influencer and video content. It is not the same as Instagram. So from that standpoint, I would say an influencer, once they are of a certain subscription level, they should not just be relying on channel metrics. They need to look at their entire ecosystem because they have other platforms with followers. They have a newsletter subscription list. So having their own private dashboard, which they do not have to share with the brands, or just kind of knowing those numbers, they could put that on a front-end media kit designed in Canva, right? It's like, hey, here's my cross-channel reach. Here's the average amount of people that click on a link and purchase. Here's the average of this action. That's a really good assessment of a creator of how they might have some better staying power with a brand.
It tells, y'all heard that? Okay, this is what that tells me. If you're interested in influencer or interested in even in being a creator or a B2B creator or anything like that, you know, these are the ways where people actually, you know, can impress a brand. Like if I got that from an influencer, you know, we're working with them all the time. If I got that from an influencer and then they were like, this is my rate, I'm like, and I know why. And I know why. You know, it just gives you more fuel for the fire when it comes to having these collaborators, because that's what they are, creative collaborators to help you, you know, work through, you know, what your goals are. So like you said,
yeah,
you know, it could be all three. It could be, you know, you want to have, because for somebody, a viral campaign doesn't have to be, you know, it's in PR, it's in all these places. It literally can be something that happens in the bubble that is, you know, your world.
That's another piece. Not everything can be measured or should be measured. That's where you have qualitative that meets quantitative, and that's where people start to talk and there's story and there's discovery. So don't be all hardcore metrics of like, well, I need to track everything. It's like figure out what the goal is and where that balance needs to happen. There are so many brands right now that try and go for just sales when it's like no one even knows who you are. You need to start with conversation and the softer things and the beautiful narrative to, again, to go back to your previous session, invite trust to be developed.
Yes.
Don't think they're just going to buy from you if they don't know who you are and they don't trust you.
That is such a key, and I would love, Rachel, if you could, and we'll have a little bit of time for questions. We're going to take maybe a couple more up here, but if there's folks in the audience that have questions about y'all's campaigns or like thinking about one, would love to hear more about that. But Rachel, I wanted to ask from you, when you are telling the story back to brands about what was successful and what needed work, you know, especially when it's been a campaign that, whether it went viral or whether it was something that we thought was and wasn't and didn't happen.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, let's say it didn't go viral. I live by the sandwich approach. You know, you start with the good, you have your little bit of bad in the middle, but you wrap it up, you know, with the bun at the end with a little bit of good, you know, because there are those instances that happen where it might not be as great as you thought it was. And I love how Macala broke down all of the success metrics and KPIs, because again, that goes back to the goal and strategy. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve X, Y, and Z engagement, views, etc.? Let's get aligned on that, so when we're having these discussions at the end, we can really evaluate and see what was successful and what was not. And so I would say my approach when going to brands is like, hey, this is what we achieved. Again, you start with that positive, that good slice of bread, you know, at the top of the sandwich, and like, you know, the engagement was powerful. The comments, the sentiment was positive. Everybody was truly engaged in interacting with the content, which we love to see. Because again, if it's your first time kicking off an influencer campaign and folks don't really know your brand, it's always so amazing to hear that folks were responsive and folks were engaged and they're now aware of who you are. So you want to lean in on all of those positive key things that kind of stood out from the campaign, and any specific words, because that could be useful in, you know, doing your next campaign as well. And I would say when it comes to maybe the not so positive things, let's say that there was a view goal, an impressions goal, or whatever that goal was that really didn't meet the number you were looking for. Okay, well then let's talk about it. You know, again, Macala talked about the metrics. That's also a time where you can connect with the influencers themselves and like, you know, would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback as to why you feel like this piece of content did not perform as well as your previous pieces or other sponsored pieces, because there will be a little bit of a difference in some cases when it comes to performance, whether it's sponsored or not, because folks tend to kind of shy away, avoid sponsored content. So that's a whole nother discussion about how you could truly make your content feel authentic and organic to the channel, because that will bring you more variety as well. But talk with the influencers, get an understanding of their channel. They probably heard their own feedback from their audience looking at the content as well as to why they just weren't feeling it. And you could actually take those notes from the influencer, from their own audience, and use that again to build a more successful campaign the next go around. And that's something I actually really enjoy doing, and I actually want to start doing more ahead of the game. So instead of after the campaign and we're seeing the results, I would love to have those conversations with influencers when we're talking about that goal and that strategy. Like, what is something that your audience is really wanting to like hear more of from you, or what do they want to see more? Or maybe they're tired of your Instagram reels and they love your long form content more on YouTube. It's like, let's hear all of that feedback ahead of time so we can act on it and build our campaign based off of that. And so that's something that I would take a look at as well, if you can, at the start of the campaign, and then of course discuss further at the end of the campaign as well on how you can make it successful. And then again, you know, you go back to that last piece of bread of your sandwich, and you know, at the end of the day, this was a great campaign because we've learned so much, you know? Yep. Again, the feedback was positive. We now know how we could be more successful in the next go around. We now know that maybe we don't want to work with that influencer because they were just a pain. Or now we know that instead of working with the influencer, maybe within the retail space, we want to go a little bit more lifestyle, maybe a little bit more comedic, you know? You could try things out and discover new ways to make your campaigns more successful. And of course, based on whatever brand that you have, because you could lean a little bit more in the comedy space if you could, if it makes sense, if it's organic, if it feels authentic. And again, that all ties back to the goal and the strategy. How can it feel organic and authentic to, of course, your brand and for the influencer as well, so you have that happy viewer, you have that happy consumer. So,
do y'all see why I love her on my team? Like, I be reading those emails like, she did that. No, for real. But I think that's a really great way to, you know, truly understand like influencer, and it's a process like anything else, is experimentation. There are so many creators. It is a $500 billion industry at this point. Yep. And with all of that, everybody has their point of view. And so in the last session, we talked about, you know, values and knowing your brand, knowing your values, and figuring out who are the right people to talk about those values. So it's not just about, you know, the metrics or the follower count or the engagement rate. It's about, do you even talk about the things that matter to this brand and to my brand? And, you know, making sure you know those things on the upfront. And so therefore, when it's time to get creative and you're reviewing a concept that they have and you're like, actually, I don't want, this won't work. You know, you have the opportunity as a brand, as a person that's paying the influencer to say, hey, you know, I would love to collaborate with you on this further because I don't know if it's hitting the mark. And, you know, realizing maybe that influencer really just isn't for you.